Hi, my name is Alfred Angelo, representing Sage Tactics Consulting Division for National Diversified Funding. Now, National Diversified Funding, we're dedicated to helping business owners uncover hidden assets within their businesses, but essentially, most businesses and entrepreneurs, they choose to use our resources to grow by acquisition. And quite often this has a compounding effect of accelerating growth and creating wealth. Through our models, they create this wealth through a minimization of risk or no risk at all. What if you're a business owner and you chose to grow by acquiring your competitors or make strategic acquisitions within your industry? Now, that growth would be a lot faster than growing under your own steam through your marketing efforts or your operations. And that's what we do at National Diversified. It's that our models and strategies, when they're implemented, and we try to create bespoke packages, bespoke models and strategies on a business-to-business basis. But essentially, the acquisition can lead to accelerated growth with minimum risk or no risk at all. So what follows in this video is a case study going through a particular strategy or model one of our clients used to make such an acquisition. And the specific business isn't so important. What the best takeaway you can get from this is to take the strategy, take the model, and apply it to your specific situation, or to help you build ideas on what is possible for your business goals. We've literally helped thousands upon thousands of clients implement these models and structure different models over, well, National Diversified has been doing this for 49 years, so even beyond when I was a young pup. So enjoy the case study, and you can probably hit me up or reach me on alfred.angelo@nationaldiversified.com. That's my email. Otherwise, enjoy the case study.
A boomer business acquisition strategy. NDFC helps two hospital health assistants buy a $60 million hospital with none of their own money. One of the best scenes from the movie Wall Street is when the character Gordon Gekko is addressing some delegates in a speech, and he mutters the immortal words, "Greed is good." This phrase and the statement made in the movie set the tone for expressing how big deals are done and decisions are made, at least to the general cinema-going public. The shoulder pads of the 80s have been shrunk down a little since then, but the large egos going after the big deals are still alive and kicking today, driving economies forward at record pace. If you have chosen to acquire a business which will be in a growth industry as the baby boomer generation mature further and retire, feel free to use your imagination and dream a little bigger, even if you feel like your resources are lacking. There might just be a way to make it happen. A lot of the strategies our clients use at National Diversified Funding are implemented with the expressed goal of meeting the individual goals of our clients. Very often, this means one approach to an acquisition is rarely enough. This is why the collective wisdom of doing deals over 40 years at National Diversified Funding means we have a literal Swiss Army knife approach to deals we construct and implement for clients nowadays. A lot of the time, it is clients we train and consult with who innovate what we have done and add a unique twist, which is great for us because it means future clients can benefit from what we have learned and implemented out in the field. The following example details how a couple of our clients, two hospital health assistants, acquired a hospital with none of their own money. The guys approached our chairman, Gordon Bizarre, with their desire to buy the hospital they worked in. The hospital was in need of some investment to upgrade its departments and build its patient numbers. Gordon asks them, how much does this hospital cost? And they reply, a little under $60 million. Gordon then asks them, how much money do you have towards acquiring this hospital? They say, we have nothing. This is when the strategies of National Diversified Funding really help investors with their dreams and goals. These clients sat down for a while and talked about the hospital, why it would be a good investment, and what the health assistants could do with the hospital to raise its value after the acquisition. With a little investigation, we found out this hospital could be divided into 2 wings and 2 separate properties, even though they were connected, and could function as one hospital. They could be legally divided into 2 hospitals. We explained to these guys the reason this is important is because the rules at the time for investment in that city said you could not have more than 35 people in the same investment without filling all sorts of high finance forms, filling with the SEC. It basically becomes a whole different ballgame which takes control out of the independent owner's hands. And the health assistants did not want to do all of that, so by dividing the hospital into 2 sections, they could now raise money by 70 people, with 35 people in each half, and treat each one as a separate entity. So here comes the real creative part. We asked the health assistants the following 2 questions. Who is it that determines the patient type and the patient numbers of a hospital? Answer: the doctors do. They have their various specialities, and they determine what type of patients come down to see them, and to a certain extent, what number of patients come to see them. A cardiologist would see less patients than a general practitioner because of the level of speciality. However, the cardiologist generates more money per patient. It is not really important to get bogged down in those kind of details. It is just important right now for our efforts to know doctors determine the patient type and numbers to a hospital. The next question we asked the hospital health assistants was, who is it that has a lot of money to invest in a hospital? Well, it turns out doctors earn a pretty penny and are just perfect to approach as potential investors in our hospital. Given these 2 facts, with the help of National Diversified Funding, the health assistants approached 70 doctors and got them to put up $100,000 each to buy a percentage interest in the hospital. Let's think about the risk for this investment. Do you think the doctors and the health assistants would have any doubt in their minds that the hospital beds would be full? There is no doubt about it. The doctors were shown the projections for the hospital based on only an 80% occupancy for the hospital beds, and this was a conservative estimate. The doctors knew by investing in the hospital, they would be making a larger return on the $100,000 than on any other investment. Try achieving those returns with gold. And the stronger reason the doctors were sure about the investment is because they knew themselves the occupancy of the hospital was totally in their control. All they had to do was bring the patients already on their treatment books over to the investment hospital. So the doctors put up the money and they became partners in the business. They became limited partners, which means they get benefits like tax write-offs and benefits passing directly to them and the hospital. The hospital health assistants became the general partners of the hospital and gave themselves a very handsome salary to run the hospital, along with the retained general manager of the hospital. But we at National Diversified Funding were not finished with this hospital, not by a long shot. We now had our initial 70 doctors at $100,000 each, making $7 million that we raised against the purchase of the hospital. The support and skin in the game strengthened our proposal for institutional fundraising and support for the remaining $44 million, which was still owing for the hospital. The institutional investors required a cash commitment of $4 million in cash against the $44 million liability, and we advised the health assistants to commit a further $1 million to invest in the running of the hospital post-acquisition. Well, from our $7 million raised from the doctors, what do you think happened to the remaining $2 million? Simple. The health assistants shared that between themselves for putting the deal together. These guys walked away without putting into the deal a penny of their own money, and they left with $1 million in each pocket and a regular salary being the general partners of the hospital, and 35% of any profits the hospital makes. Here is how the deal worked out in more detail by the numbers, along with the steps to the deal. The steps went along like this. 1. The hospital health assistants formed 2 limited partnerships. They employed themselves as general partners of each limited partnership. They appointed the doctors who invested as limited partners. 2. Each of the doctors invested $100,000 each, multiplied by 70, giving a total of $7 million. 3. The two limited partnerships pays $4 million in cash and assume the $44 million owed by the hospital in liability through institutional investors. 4. The health assistants commit $1 million of the $7 million raised to use as working capital for the hospital. 5. The health assistants pay themselves a $2 million fee as general partner and maker of the deal. Even though the original owner of the hospital had put up $16 million and borrowed $44 million to build the hospital, they were flexible sellers because the hospital was losing money. In addition to their $2 million fee for putting the deal together, the general partners also get 1. $300,000 per year management fee. 2. 35% of profits if the hospital made a profit. 3. 30% claim on any type of hospital asset liquidation. The head administrator was retained to run the hospital for a salary. Time to get your thinking cap on. What is it that we are really leveraging with this technique? We are leveraging the investor's ability to bring the customer of the business we are buying. Think about how this technique is used to purchase golf courses, nightclubs, shopping malls, office buildings and industrial parks. Be imaginative. We have barely scratched the surface for ways we use these strategies to help our clients at National Diversified Funding. So get your thinking cap on. How will you apply this strategy to your big goals?